Julius Robert Oppenheimer is a 22-year-old doctoral student studying theoretical physics under experimental physicist Patrick Blackett at the Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge. Robert struggles to keep up with the other students as he gets homesick and experiences anxiety. Blackett is constantly pushing his buttons, so Robert poisons an apple with cyanide, intending to end his lecturer's misery. However, the gravity of the situation hits Robert, and he rushes back to stop Blackett from eating the apple. He finds visiting lecturer Niels holding the apple and stops him from eating it, saying it has a worm. Robert idolizes Niels. Niels realizes that Robert feels uncomfortable in the school and urges him to study theoretical physics at Göttingen. In another scene, a man called Louis Strauss is at a private hearing and asked to share his experience with Robert. Robert's stay in Göttingen is successful, and he profoundly enjoys studying theoretical physics. He is close friends with fellow physicist Isidor Rabi. The two met famous German theoretical physicist Werner Heisenberg in Switzerland. Heisenberg wonders if he will be meeting Robert in Germany, but the latter shares his intentions to immigrate. After getting his PhD, Robert seeks to expand quantum physics in the United States, so he applies to be a lecturer and qualifies to teach at the University of Berkeley in California. He also teaches at California's College of Technology. Initially, Robert's class has one student, but many more join later as they become interested in learning the relatively new subject. Robert befriends physicist Lawrence, who advises him to keep his political beliefs outside class. At the time, people with communist views were deemed as enemies, and chances of getting arrested were high. However, Robert attends several Communist Party meetings. He meets a French literature professor, and the two discuss nuclear fission, discovered in December 1938. Robert realizes that nuclear fission could be weaponized if the theory is implemented. At the communist meetings, Robert is drawn to a young woman called Jean, and the two become lovers. Robert also meets Catherine Kitty, and this relationship leads into marriage. Robert continues his side affairs with Jean. Soon, Lawrence informs Robert that the Germans have started making a bomb using the nuclear fission theory. When World War II begins, Robert is approached by U.S. Army General Leslie Groves to lead a secret Manhattan Project. Robert worries that his political ties to the communists might derail his appointment. He undergoes several vetting and security processes before he is cleared for the project. His womanizing and political relations are not factored in his selection. Leslie then reveals that the Manhattan Project is aimed at creating an atomic bomb powerful enough to compete with the Germans. Further information on the German bomb makes Robert conclude that only Heisenberg could have created it. America has little weaponry in terms of defense, so Robert agrees to work on the project. Besides, he is a Jew and wants to play his part in avenging the deaths of so many of his tribesmen. Robert believes he could finish his bomb faster with access to all the resources he needs, as Hitler would probably limit Heisenberg's resources. The Manhattan Project development starts in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and Robert starts recruiting the best of the best physicists to work with him. Among those recruited are Rabi and Edward Teller. Most of the physicists are reluctant to join Robert, as it means moving to Los Alamos for an undetermined period of time. However, the desire to be patriots persuades them. Robert has his first meeting, informing the team what they are expected to do. During a meeting, Teller shares his concerns about a nuclear bomb's effects on the atmosphere. Worried about these issues, Robert seeks counsel from Albert Einstein. Before meeting Einstein, Robert interacts with Louis Strauss, a board member at Princeton University. Strauss is pleased to meet Robert and gives him a tour of the facility, hoping he would consider lecturing there one day. During the tour, Robert sees Einstein and approaches him. The two talk a little about Robert's dilemma and Einstein's theory of relativity. Robert decides to go along with the plan as the chances of a chain atmospheric reaction are low. At another meeting, Robert's team realizes they need more materials to make their bomb. Teller comes up with an idea to use hydrogen instead, but his calculations are wrong and will consume more materials than planned. Destitute, Teller wants to leave, but Robert convinces him to stay by granting him full access to work on whatever he wants at his labs. A problem arises when the Soviet is revealed to have a hydrogen bomb. Robert suspects that there is a spy in his camp and asks for security clearance so he is not blindsided again. Leslie is reluctant due to Robert's political ties, but he eventually gives in. All these matters are being brought up at the concurrent trial. After Hitler died in 1945, many people wondered why a bomb was necessary. Robert claims that even if the Germans have retreated, there is a high chance that Japan will continue the war and soon attack the Americans. Robert is sure that the bombing will lead to world peace. Robert brings in his wife and kids to stay in Los Alamos, but he continues sneaking out to meet Jean. One evening, Robert learns that Jean has been found dead in her apartment after taking her own life. Robert fears that the US government has eliminated her due to her communist beliefs. The death affects him so much that he starts slacking at work, allowing his teammates to turn on Teller. After some time, Robert regains focus and continues working. As the project goes on, Robert hires a bomb trigger expert. This makes Leslie furious as the chances of having a spy on the project increase. Robert calms Leslie down and asks to bring in his younger brother, Frank. The project is taking longer than expected, so the pressure on Robert's team mounts. He goes to a meeting following Germans' retreat. The officials at the meeting decided to bomb Tokyo and warn the Germans against attacking the US. However, some officials are concerned that Tokyo will get few casualties and the impact may prompt Japan into fierce retaliation. Consequently, the members vote on bombing Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan's military cities, which guaranteed a large number of casualties. Robert gets to work designing and assembling the bomb. To ensure its effectiveness, Robert's team creates a smaller bomb to test it. Frank helps the team place the bomb in a secure area in the desert, allowing them to see the bomb's detonation while staying away from the shock waves. The bomb will be tested at night so the team can see how it works. Unfortunately, it rained heavily that night, so the team postponed the Trinity test to the early morning hours. A cheer passes around the room as Robert and his team witness how effective their bomb is. The next phase is to create two bombs with higher power. Robert finishes the bombs months before the agreed date and hands them to Leslie. A few days later, President Harry S. Truman ordered the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bomb's effect caused Japan to retreat and surrender. Robert gains appraisal and popularity all over the world. He is invited to many talk shows to explain how he created the bomb. However, Robert is devastated by the large number of casualties and the unexpected long-lasting effects of his creation. Robert meets with the president, congratulating him on leading America to victory. However, Robert regrets creating something that took so many innocent lives. Truman rudely suggests that no one cares about the bomb maker. He is the one who ordered the bombings, so the deaths are on his conscience, not Robert's. Nevertheless, Robert continues addressing weapons controls and asking that the US government restrict further nuclear weapons development. Robert attends a meeting where Strauss informs him that Klaus Fuchs, a German physicist Robert had recruited earlier, is a spy. Allegations that Robert was also a spy cause him to be investigated by the FBI. Robert applies for a security clearance renewal license, but is subjected to a private hearing before a personnel security board. Robert plans his defense, while Kitty believes that Strauss is behind everything. While testifying, Strauss explained that he had not brought the charges against Robert. The charges were brought by Joint Committee on Atomic Energy member William Borden. However, Robert realizes that the trial has a predetermined outcome. It turns out that Strauss had arranged for Borden to bring the charges against Robert and given him a list of witnesses who would rule against Robert. Strauss hates Robert for publicly dismissing his claims and proposing negotiations with Russia amidst the ongoing Cold War. He also believes that Robert had rallied Einstein into hating him, causing him to lose favor in the scientific community. Strauss wants to be the Secretary of Commerce, so he has to eliminate Robert's political influences. During the trial, Robert's deal with communism comes up, looking as though he was a spy because of his beliefs. His affair with Jean is also brought to light. However, Kitty defends her husband, saying that while Robert donated several times to controversial agencies, he never was a true communist. Teller's hydrogen bomb gains popularity, but instead of bashing Robert for dismissing it, he claims that Robert remained genuinely loyal to his country. Leslie testifies that if the regulations imposed on security clearance at the time were considered, he wouldn't have granted Robert clearance. Robert seeks out Einstein, who advises him to stop putting himself through the messy trial, seeing that his country is rewarding him unfairly. Robert maintains that he loves his country. All these testimonies are meant to help Robert, but instead, the presiding council twists them, determined to destroy his reputation. Unfortunately, the plan is successful, and Robert's clearance is revoked, limiting his influence on nuclear policy. Shortly after, in 1959, Strauss was in a Senate confirmation hearing for Secretary of Commerce. Nuclear physicist David Hill is called to the hearing. He reveals that Strauss had acted unfairly by bringing in people who hated Robert at his trial, ensuring that the trial was rigged. The news caused the Senate to vote against Strauss's nomination. In 1963, Robert received the Enrico Fermi Award from President Lyndon B. Johnson as a gesture for political rehabilitation. The conversation between Robert and Einstein is shown, revealing that Robert never mentioned anything about Strauss to Einstein. Instead, he shares his regret for taking part in something that could potentially destroy the world. If you enjoy this video, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and watch this video on the left as well.